Alright. Ever since biblical times, the act of prostitution has been frowned upon, to say the least. The morals and societal norms of these times have completely turned around from what they had previously been. So my core question for you today is, should prostitution be legalized? Before I get onto my stand on the topic, there are a few terms I feel you may be unaware with that will better help you understand this proposal. According to the Merriam-Webster Dictionary, prostitution is the act or practice of engaging in sexual relations, especially for money. Another term is the next term is human trafficking, which, thanks to Tyler, we now know how serious of a problem it is, which is defined as the illegal trade of human beings for purposes of sexual exploitation or forced labor, which is a form of modern slavery. The last term I feel some may be unfamiliar with is a John, which is the customer to a prostitute. Now, my reasons for the legalization of prostitution are, first and foremost, it would create the opportunity for hundreds of thousands of new career positions. And considering the economic state that all of us are going to have to face in the very, very near future, having that whole new window as an option seems a little less ridiculous. Now, aside from the actual career of being a prostitute, many high-paying jobs would also be introduced into the job market, such as construction companies having to build brothels, as there are none now, people who work in the brothels as upper management, janitors, secretaries, and etc. Secondly, the legalization of prostitution would lead to a significant decrease in the spread of sexually transmitted diseases, as I doubt most, if any, take the actual time and money to go be tested for sexually transmitted diseases. The possibility of decrease in the spread of STDs should not be taken lightly, especially considering the CIA's website has the U.S. ranked 9th in the entire world for people living with HIV and AIDS, putting us ahead of the Democratic Republic of Congo and just behind Kenya and Zimbabwe. Whereas in countries that prostitution is legalized, like Germany, it is ranked 64th on the CIA's list. The rates of the STDs overall, not just HIV and AIDS, in those countries are significantly lower. But my last immensely important point is the legalization could cut back on the amount of forced prostitution and sex trafficking, which is the act of abducting young women and even children, and forcing them to have sex either by violent force, drugs, or introducing it at such a young age that it becomes the only life they've ever known. For the opposing viewpoint on this topic, it was kind of hard to find a logical argument on this topic. And considering the most widely used valid argument for this topic would be the biblical context of Roman Catholic belief in abstinence before marriage. Now, I am sure we are all aware of how uncommon it is to practice this today, as Olivia's speech had just told us. So why should it be used as an argument against a highly beneficial law that could be passed? Aside from that fact, aside from the fact that America already disregards the abstinence before marriage fact, it is written in the U.S. Constitution in our very first amendment that, word for word here, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise therefore of, or abridging the freedom of speech or press, and all the rest of the First Amendment. So any valid reasoning used in the United States court system based on this argument is going to be considered null and void. The second argument that I had found is that legalization of prostitution would not actually reduce the risk of harm able to be done upon the prostitutes or the Johns. So before I get into my counter-argument at this point, let's consider the factors to an average act of illegal prostitution, which most are done off the street, obtaining prostitutes the nickname streetwalkers or corner workers, which leaves both the John and a prostitute in the car completely alone, either completely capable of doing harm, or if it is being done in gang's turf, this makes it a potential harm for the John if the prostitute has a watch on her. So to say this would be more dangerous than a controlled private brothel is a little bit asinine. And to completely eliminate the threat, there could be forms of security, such as bouncers, making sure there's no one being harmed during the sexual encounter. The point that was most protested to me in this very class was the threat of psychological harm done to the prostitutes, being put in the situation of having to have their bodies sold. My immediate response was that if it was legalized, there'd be far less opportunity for money making to have a illegal gang running a prostitution ring. When the fact that even if the legal, fully by one's own will prostitute could have psychological harm, I had to look further in this to get a valid point. In my research, I found only one website with an article written by Dr. Melissa Farley that had any good points on the effects of prostitution mentally. When I looked up these actual studies, all the studies were done in countries where prostitution was illegal, which gives us the right to assume that most of these women who reported severe depression could have been put into it illegally. Finally, in my opinion, an absolute foolproof plan for prostitution would be to have it exist as a government-ran establishment. At first it sounds a bit odd or outrageous, but look at the USDA. They are the quality control for food to make sure it is safe for the public. There could be the same kind of deal for prostitution. This would give brothels access to any possibility of a criminal record, marital status, and would decrease the chance of prostitutes being harmed or used as a tool for adultery. So I've pleaded my case, and I hope that if you have not been swayed by my facts, I have at least brought to your attention the high risk of STDs, a need for more stable jobs in this very unstable economy, and the always potential threat of being forced into the world of human trafficking. Thank you.
I wanted to say that you did good. I couldn't tell that you were even reading, except for the fact that you didn't look up. Yeah. Besides that, I swear, it was great.
Yeah.
Besides that, at first, like, I think I want an occupation change. I think I want to become a prostitute now. At first, I was like, I don't agree with him. But I think I agree with him now. So, I'm sold.
Hey.
I felt like it chose a potentially difficult topic, and I think you handled it very, very well. You brought up some really good points. You clearly did your research. Like you said, you had to dig pretty deep to find some stuff, but you still managed to get what you needed.
So we'll just go clockwise back, and then Mr. Gordon.
Oh, and not me.
I thought you addressed it very professionally for being a very controversial and
Yeah.
controversial subject.
I really like that idea of it being government run. I think that's a really good idea, actually.
Right. That was my reason. Matt?
Isn't it legal in Las Vegas though? Like it's government
Yeah.
run
Legal in
in Las
Nevada as
Vegas.
long as it's illegal
Pretty
and
sure.
government run.
But my old house used to be a brothel. That was funny. You know,
Sweet.
right on the corner of 91 and 236 with the big red barn, that house, there's that dirt road right by Witch Trot. That was a train track, and they would stop there and walk up the hill to my house, my old house.
Nice.
It was a brothel, yeah.
If those walls could tell stories.
In Elliott?
No, 91 and 236. Here's 91 and Witch Trot. It's in
Rich,
yeah.
Are you a prophet?
Taylor?
Wait, everyone else is listening, please?
Taylor?
Is he still going? Okay, I thought you did a really well job overall. Like, you had great support and stuff. The only thing I'd improve on is your eye contact. But, just out of curiosity, do you know the ages, like, that it ranges, like, for prostitution? Like, are there, like, a lot of people that are below 18 or above 18 or, like, in there?
In
Are they
countries
usually-
like Singapore, I found there being cases of children as young as 5 being forced into prostitution.
Oh, it's still